video, I'm going to be talking about sensory issues around autism. So I don't know if this is sensory processing disorder or what it is, but I do know that a lot of autistic people have sensory problems, and it's also very common in ADHD as well. I'm going to be discussing, as I've said, sensory processing issues. I'm going to basically explain what it is, examples of it, referring to myself, giving you a bit of like first-hand experience, and how things that can help the situation, whether you're in an overload situation or like in the overload situation and before the overload situation, to maybe prevent the overload from occurring. So yeah, if you like my videos about autism, make sure you subscribe and like this video if you like the video. And yeah, the first thing I'm just going to say is, for anybody that doesn't know, a sensory problem is basically where someone gets extremely overwhelmed or distressed via something to do with the senses, whether that's hearing something, really loud noise, or it might not even just be a loud noise, it might be a specific noise that someone with autism doesn't like a sound of I don't know, a certain noise, a car, an ambulance, whatever. And it can cause them, it's not that they don't like the noise, it's more, it can be quite distressing to hear the noise. So it's not like, oh, that noise is a bit annoying. It's not like that. But anyway, yeah, that's one sense. Obviously taste, textures of food, how hot a certain type of food is, things like that. So that's why a lot of autistic people may be picky eaters, or it's either that or we tend to like routine also. That's another reason to why we can be picky eaters, because we like to eat the same thing all over and over again, because we like routine and same thing happening every day. Yeah, we get the point, yeah. So taste, feel of things, which is a big issue regarding me. I will talk more about that in a second. Seeing things, brightness of something, or like how, like flickering lights, things like that. Yeah, so that's basically the different things that can cause sensory overload. So it is never usually one sense that can cause a meltdown. It is usually overwhelming different, sometimes all 5 senses, sometimes it can be only 2, but it's basically where you get overwhelmed because you cannot process the senses that you are experiencing. Whereas someone who is neurotypical may find like that type of noises annoying, or a bit like if like a tag or something, they might find it, oh, it's a bit itchy, but we'll just get over it. No, it's not like that for someone with autism. We cannot process the overwhelming amount of different senses in our brain. Our brain are structured to really kind of do like one, can only really like process like one thing at a time. That's why we can often get overwhelmed with tasks. We can only focus, we are like to plan things, we have to do one thing at a time. That is how an autistic brain works. Our senses are also heightened. So what you may be experiencing as a neurotypical person, so a loud noise, etc, we feel that 10 times more. Maybe not 10 times, but you get where I'm going. So with all the senses looming in together, it's like an iceberg. So you've got one sense, you get a bit annoyed. You have another sense, you start to get a bit more distressed, and another, and eventually that can turn into a meltdown. Now, not all autistic children, adults, whatever, can communicate that sensory problems are the root of the meltdown, because they might not know it themselves. They might not know. As a child, I didn't know. I do now. I can now identify it, and I can more or less say when I have a meltdown, it is usually because, yes, there's some change going on or something's happened that has caused the meltdown, but 50% of the time there is a sensory problem also in the background. I'll give an example of this. Last week I was rushing. I got out of bed. I didn't get out of bed on time, and I was rushing to get out of the house. I thought I was going to be late, and that's a big thing for me. I don't like being late. I thought I was going to be late, so I was rushing, and I don't rush. I don't do that very well either. So I was rushing, and because I have set times for everything before I go out, it's a problem. It was very hot, so that's a big sensory thing for me. I cannot deal with being hot very well. I sweat, I panic, I hate being hot, especially when I'm trying to do something. So we had that. We then also had my hearing aids playing up. I am deaf. I am okay with sounds, loud noises have never really been an issue for me because I am deaf, and if it was, I can turn off my hearing aids, but no. My hearing aids were whistling and I could not deal with it. So I was hot, I'm trying to get out, my hearing aids are whistling, and I could not cope with the overwhelmness of everything that was going on. Now, this may not be an issue to someone who was neurotypical, but it was a huge issue for me, and it nearly caused a meltdown. But it didn't cause a meltdown, but I was very, very much on the verge. I did rip out my hearing aids and throw them all the way across the room because they were very distressing. I found I was quite distressed, and I could not deal with it any longer. I was so tense, it was horrible. It was like I needed to explode. That's what it felt like. When someone with autism has a meltdown, or someone who's autistic has a meltdown, it will probably not be because of one thing. It will be most of the time because of a lot of things, like how I've just explained. A lot of people with autism have sensory issues. My sensory issues, as I've just said, hearing has never really been a massive thing for me on its own. I could have coped with the hearing aids whistling like loud noises, drilling, all that has never really been, but it is very, very common. So that's why supermarkets may be distressing, due to the brightness, due to the noise, due to the fact that it's often busy, and the hustle and the bustle. Shopping can be an issue for me, not supermarket shopping. I've never had an issue with that, but shopping, getting changed over, that gets me hot. I don't deal with being hot very well, so skin for me, things on my skin, cream, being hot, being sticky, being sweaty. I have about, I think, 150 showers a day to get rid of this feeling. I have to wash my feet before I put socks on, every time I put socks on. Holidays, I've mentioned this in so many vlogs, blog or whatever, videos, I've mentioned it. So yeah, we've got the hotness of being on holiday, we've got the sun cream and the sweating and the stickiness of chlorine. We also have my hair that is wet after being in the pool, and we have that on my back. So there's been a time where my mum has had to go and take me to an emergency hairdresser's appointment. I've my hair chopped off, because when I say chopped off, I mean like to above my shoulders, because I couldn't deal with it touching my back and it being wet, and because obviously I had to get 150. It was just not good. It's just I can deal with being on holiday so much better now, but it is basically just 2 weeks worth of sensory overload. That's what it feels like. It just feels like an overload. That's why they call it sensory overload. It feels like an overload of different emotions. But it's not emotions, it's senses. So just like you can get overload in emotions, you can get an overload in senses, which is what happens to me. And I'm also weird about food. Spiciness, pepper. Pepper, to me, you know, pepper is in salt and pepper, not pepper as in the vegetable or fruit, whatever people call it these days. Pepper is like the spiciest thing on earth. It burns my mouth out. The one thing I'm going to tell parents that are watching this is to Please, if a child is feeling distressed, if a child is non-verbal, etc., please be aware of the surroundings, and please be aware that there might be something else going on. And even if your child isn't non-verbal, I often could not identify that it was things around me causing meltdowns. I have become quite good at identifying that now. I have not always been good at that. My parents might have thought, well, they haven't known what to do, because it seemed like I was having a meltdown over something like stupid, but in fact it wasn't. But I couldn't identify it myself, so how could they identify what was causing it? Do you know what I mean? So it is very difficult. So if your child's having a meltdown, please look around you. Please think to what it might be, because it's really not a nice feeling to be overwhelmed with your senses and to feel like it makes you feel claustrophobic. Makes you feel like you can't move. That's what cream does to me. That's what it does when I've got a tag. When I've got a tag on, I could actually strip off and walk around naked. That's what I feel like. If I'm out and about, I'm literally thinking in my head, I just want to strip off. I just need to strip off. And obviously I'm not going to strip off, but I can't think past that. I can't think past that. I think I am feeling that distressed about this tag. I could actually, no. In fact, this bra, I will be changing it after I've put it on, because it is slightly tight. So I'm not going to be getting distressed about that today. No. And that's another thing that I advise. If there is something that isn't causing distress, but it's causing discomfort for an autistic child, please just try and eliminate as early as possible, because although it might not cause you distress right now, as things occur during the day, it might eventually cause you distress down the line. So I would eliminate the problem straight away before you get an overload of different problems and sensors, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to get on to the advice part of the video, even though I've just given a bit of advice there. But I'm going to get on to the advice. So here we go. Showers. Showers for me are a lifesaver, because the stickiness, the creaminess, the way you feel at the end of a day is not a nice feeling. And I have to have a shower. I have to wash my feet before I put socks on. When I was younger, it was very simple. I refused to wear the socks. Now, we've identified that washing my feet have made my feet feel a lot more fresh before I put on a pair of socks. You need to identify what might help eliminate your sensory issues. So as I've just said, a shower has for me, because my sensory issues are usually regarding my skin and stickiness, and when like that, like when you move your arm and stuff, it feels sticky there. It's, ooh, no. I don't even like to think about it. Like, it's literally that discomforting for me. It literally makes me cringe if I think about it. Headphones, noise cancelling headphones for children or adults who find noises distressing. It's never an issue for me, because if I do find a noise distressing, I can simply turn my hearing aids off, as I am pretty much 80% deaf. Fidgeting helps me, moving a little bit helps me, fidgeting around. We've got sensory toys, things like that. I'll show you some now. Just a kind of note, this is kind of what to do before an overload. So this isn't in an overload moment. I'll discuss that in a second. So as I was saying, I had to go get them. Sensory toys. I can't not fidget with something, whether that is with my hair, whether that's with my ears, whether that's just moving my leg. I am always moving around and I'm always doing something with my hands. So these sensory toys is kind of a lifesaver, and they are actually called sensory toys, which maybe it can help take your mind off any other problems, sensors that can be an issue. And as I've said, our senses are heightened. So this to what may feel good to a neurotypical person feels a lot nicer for someone with autism. Even though the bad senses are very bad, the good senses feel very good, which is, for me, I love eating the things I love eating because it feels nicer. I'm hoping that's the reason. I'm hoping I've not just made it up, but I'm hoping that's the reason that I'm obsessed with food and I can't stop eating, because food is nicer to me, because our senses are just heightened and things feel really nice. So yeah, anyway, so this I will definitely, we've got this, we got this. I mean, there's so many on the website. I'll definitely link the website below, and I'll link it, I'll just say what the Instagram is on here. That were good. And we got this one, we got this one, we get this one, right. It's extremely satisfying. I think you're going to get the point after I finish. It's really satisfying, and these toys are actually made for people who are autistic anyway, and I think they are great for people who also have ADHD as well, because they also do fidget and also have sensory issues also, so it really might help. It also helps with concentration levels, not that this video is about that, but it does also help for concentration when you're trying to concentrate on a task. I always have to have like fidget things. I've usually in the past I've just doodled, but these are coming to college with me. So yeah, they do smaller versions of this. It's got a keyring on it, so if you want to like link it to something, I will not be linking this to something because of the fact that it's absolutely huge. But I do actually have a smaller version that I do take to college with me. Take this to college with me. I take a lot to college with me. I've literally got like half of the stuff on their website. So we're getting the point. We're getting the point. Let's moving on. Writing a list of triggers, I think, is extremely important for a parent and for someone who's autistic, because you might forget that this is a trigger, so you got to avoid it. You might forget what triggers you, so you got to avoid it at all costs, because things in day-to-day life, there's always going to be there's always going to be sensory triggers like bright lights, etc, etc. So how many times have I said etc? Yeah, I'm not sure I've stopped saying that. There's always going to be a bright light, a loud noise. So if there's a little bit of something we can do to stop a trigger, such as a tag in clothes, cutting tags off, if you know that triggers you, right, make a list of it so you don't forget, because there's things like that you can help. You can help with that. You can help buying certain clothes. There is definitely clothes out there that are comfy. I can't overwear clothes. That's another thing of mine. I can't overwear clothes because they get bobbly, and I don't like the feel of them on me. Makes me feel honestly disgusting, and I hate it, and claustrophobic. And so that is a thing for mine. I've had to write a list. I've made a note of that. I can't overwash things because I don't like the feeling of them. I have to cut out tags of everything. I don't like the feeling of tags on my body. I don't like tightly fitted bras. I don't like any of that. So I always, like for me with my bras, I know I shouldn't, but I go a size bigger. I go a size bigger on my back because it feels better on me. So whatever, we do what makes you feel good, yeah? So yeah, I feel like this is 10 times more important if your child is non-verbal, because if your child's having a meltdown and can't communicate to you what the triggers are, what's wrong, you're gonna have to look on your list and you're gonna have to go, is this happening? No. Is this happening? No. Is this happening? No. And try and then if everything off the list is and your child's still, you've got to look around. So you make a list based on it is trial and error, because if you don't know what your child's having a meltdown about, you have to look around you. You've got to be observing. That's how you're gonna eliminate your meltdowns. not all autistic children have meltdowns. Shutdowns are also a thing, which is like kind of like extreme exhaustion, like they just shut down. Like, I don't really know how to explain that, but you basically just shut down. You are you feel over, we need to expand vocabulary here, overused. You just feel like you just can't handle the day anymore. That's what it feels like. There we go. There's therapy. Some people have had therapy. I haven't. I've talked about this before. I've never had any kind of therapy to help with my sensory problems, but yeah, I don't know what therapy does. I'm just going to mention it because I can't give advice on therapy because I haven't had it. So yeah, in an overload, sensory overload, if you are having a sensory overload, no matter what situation you are in, you get yourself out. Even if you think you can't get yourself out, if you think this is an impossible environment to get myself out of, you get yourself out. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, I honestly cannot stress it because I haven't in the past, and it does more harm than good. So if you're at school, for instance, you're in a class full of people and you quite literally just got up and left, it will not be a problem. You will not get told off, and if you do get told off, that's wrong. They're wrong, not you. You're not wrong for walking out. If any, in fact, I'm just going to say this, not even a sensory problem, sensory overload, if you are on the brink of a meltdown and getting up and walking out is going to stop you from having it, you get up and you walk out. Like, it's no discussion. Because I have been told off for doing this at school. I was told off. I was called rude. I was called, when in fact I was trying not to get the chair and throw it up at the interactive whiteboard. So I thought in my head I'm doing more harm than good just getting up and walking out, but no. More awareness needs to be put out about that, because you're preventing yourself from experiencing an extremely distressful time, because meltdowns are horrible. You do not have control over your own body, and that is not a situation that anybody would want to be in. And if you can prevent that, then you prevent it. Or even if you're in a meltdown, I still think the best thing to do is to try and get out of the environment, because it might be the environment that's stressing you out. Public environment. I'm not saying if it's your house, you leave your house, because it might be clothing, it might be your skin. There's probably more things you can do in the house than you probably could do outside the house. This is more talking about public, like if you're in a public area. I think getting yourself out of the public area will be the best thing to do. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. It's up to you. Because obviously I am no expert. I am just talking about experiences that I have had and my advice on my experiences and what has helped me. This is not the same as every single child, just as not every single parenting techniques works for every single child. I know that because my mum has read books with parenting advice that have not been helpful whatsoever. So obviously there was helpful for some child, but not for me. Which this might be the case for you. You might not think this might not be helpful, but it might be helpful for one person. And if it's helpful for one person, then it's helpful. So, yeah. Anyway, it is difficult for any parent who's watching this and haven't experienced it themselves. I do understand that completely, because you're not going to understand where a child is coming from. You're not going to understand what's going on with your child, and because you can't feel it yourself. So yeah, I do understand how difficult it can be, and I do. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next week for a new video. Bye.